Book of Shadows. When I got home, I found a statement from my retirement account in the mailbox and an eviction notice taped to my front door. I tore open the account statement. My IRA was worth nothing. I shouldn't have invested in my company's stock. I crumpled it up and opened the door. Inside, everything I owned was in boxes. I'd sold my sofa and TV. I'd sold most of my books to the used bookstore. I supposed I could have another garage sale and sell the bookshelves and kitchen stuff, but the eviction notice said I had a week, so I'd better hurry. Mom didn't have the money, and I'd cut up my credit card when they jacked the interest to 29%. No U-Haul for me. Maybe I should abandon all this crap and drive to Mom's, if I raised money for gas. I wouldn't abandon my computer or my father's Book of Shadows. I couldn't do contracts without the computer, and I wasn't going anywhere without my father's book. I opened it. Inside, spells in my father's handwriting, the sum of his magical life. It even contained the spell they used to conceive me. I turned to the page on fast money. "Hail, Habondia, Lady of Plenty," I began. I felt a sudden surge of grief for my father, but took a deep breath and went on. There were words of power, and I spoke them, calling her to me. It's important to visualize during a spell. I tried to remember when I felt prosperous, the measure of my success. My daddy's pride in me. That was what always made me feel successful. I'd never feel that again. He was dead. As the spell demanded, I took out my last $20 and burned it on the stove. It was just as well. Spells that demanded a trade were more reliable than the spells that asked for something without giving something in return. Those relied on luck, and I had little or none to spare. My father died a little over 2 years ago. Everyone told me things would get better. Ha! He was the one who believed in me. He was the one who taught me magic. When I earned my degree in computer science, he was the one who never doubted me for a moment. And that was before the cancer. Great workings often shorten the lives of magicians. He never told me what he had done, what had been worth giving up part of his life, what had been worth the cancer eating his bone marrow, the dark magic of chemotherapy that had robbed him of his thick black hair, the change to his taste buds so only ice cream, popsicles, and cotton candy tasted good, that had been in exchange for the last few months before the cancer had won. Had the cancer itself been a price? And which would be worse? The cancer being meaningless, or the cancer being the price he paid for something else? The phone rang. I answered. "Honey," my mother said, "Anna Rodriguez just paid me some money she owed me, so I'm sending it to you, Western Union. You can pick it up at the office on University and Oak." "How much?" I asked. "$200, she said. "Is that enough?" "It'll do," I said. "Thank you." Clothes, computer, college diploma, Book of Shadows. The landlord could sell all the rest for back rent, or throw it out for all I cared. I loaded the car. I piled the computer equipment on the desk and looked around. My mother had kept my bedroom unchanged, which meant that the Backstreet Boys posters had to go. I hung up my clothes in the closet next to my prom dress and cap and gown, both wrapped in plastic. I pulled the thumbtacks out of the posters and rolled them up to store them in the closet. Then I flopped down on the bed, still fully clothed, and slept. When I woke up, I set up my computer. I'd have to ask Mom to get dial-up so I could email out resumes. I headed downstairs, where Mom waited at the table. "Phew," she said, and wrinkled her nose. "Can we get some kind of internet so I can email out resumes?" "Does that work?" She poured me a cup of coffee. "In my day, we pounded the pavement." "Well," I said, "you didn't write websites." She shrugged. "Maybe you should consider something else since that's so slow. Substitute teaching. Clerical work. I made a face. I'd tried that. They said they wouldn't take me for either, since I was likely to leave them the second anything came along in my field. Huh. I'd been unemployed for 2 years, ever since the company went under, and no amount of magic seemed to get me a job. I'm sorry, she said, raising her hands. I always end up saying the wrong thing. If your father were here, I sighed. Is there anything I can do to help? I have some software I'd like you to install, she says. You know I'm hopeless. Your father always handled the computer. QuickBooks. Jennifer said that she couldn't run her shop without it, so I bought it, and now I can't figure out how to set it up. She laughed. Hopeless. I'd be happy to, I said. Just sign up for whatever you need. You can put it on my credit card. She stood and poured herself more coffee, then looked at me. Have you tried prosperity spells? She said. No, Mother, that never occurred to me. I miss him too, she said. Sometimes I think I would give up 10 years of my life to get him back. Don't you say that, she said. She grabbed the salt shaker and rushed to the sink, filling a glass with water and pouring salt in. She sprinkled me with salt water, then picked up the knife from the butter dish and drew a circle on the kitchen floor around me. You came from the ocean. The ocean will protect you, she said, and sprinkled me with more salt water. Never say anything like that again. My father's book of shadows had a spell to raise the dead. It was tucked in between the spell to meet your true love and the spell they used to conceive me, which partially involved making love on the beach. Too much information, if you ask me. The spell was about a third of the way in, written in his youthful handwriting. Based on the surrounding spells, he'd probably learned it from Nana, or maybe even Great Aunt Carmela. In the margin, he had written, Don't even think about it, Sandy, in the shaky, pain-addled scrawl he used at the end of his life. I was angry, partially because I was tempted. I really would give 10 years of my life to get him back, but I knew that wouldn't be enough. Besides, I knew my father wouldn't want me to shorten my life for his, and that was the price. We're all born with a finite bit of life, and if I wanted him to have more, I'd have to give him some of mine. At the bottom of the page, in his normal handwriting, I read, Sandy, ocean child, my greatest bit of magic, my baby girl. I couldn't see the page anymore. My eyes were blurry with tears. I closed the book. Hail, Athena, Lady of Wisdom, I said, and lit a candle. I'm here to ask for a job. It's been 2 long years, lady. And since it was a very mental job, I'm asking you for your help. I put a resume in the candle flame. It wasn't much of an exchange, but it was the best I had. The resume wouldn't light, no matter how long I held the paper in the flame. I lowered the paper and extinguished the flame. Offering rejected. I was desperate and yet not ready to give up. So I relit the candle. Hail, Athena, Lady of Wisdom. I need a job. Please help me. I placed the resume in the candle flame. It still wouldn't light. I lowered the page, and the flame spread across the underside and singed my fingers. I dropped the resume and swore. At which point it ignited, taking the carpet with it. Fuck! I leapt to my feet and stomped on the flames until they were out. Then I extinguished the candle. As omens went, this was bad. I hit send on the last set of resumes and hung up the connection. That made 20 today. I headed downstairs and found my mother, who asked me to set the table for dinner. I picked up 2 plates, 2 forks, and 2 knives, and walked into the dining room. I put a plate, a fork, and a knife at each end of the table. I turned to go back into the kitchen, when something on the mantel caught my eye. It was a large urn. I stepped closer, unmarked. Mom came in with a bowl of mashed potatoes and a plate with corn on the cob. Is that? I forgot you hadn't seen that, she said. Yes, it's your father. My father. My father. You should have gone to the funeral, she said. You would have found it comforting. Sandy? I realized I was shaking. Mom came over and put her arms around me, but I couldn't take my eyes off the mantel. It was like a part of me was trapped in that jar. Honey? It's so small, I said. It's just wrong that it would be so small. Intellectually, I knew that the human body was 60% water, but no. Wrong. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't realize you'd react like this. I would have taken it upstairs or something. We were just going to eat with him and that? Would you rather eat in the kitchen? I shook my head and shuffled back to my chair. Mom gave me a skeptical look and came back with a plate full of meatloaf. Dead, burnt flesh. Like my father. Dead in a jar. I waved the plate away, nauseated, and picked up an ear of corn. Are you sure? She asked. I nodded and spread butter on the corn. She cut into her meatloaf with a knife. It was like watching someone cut Daddy. I couldn't watch her eat. I burst into tears, clapped a hand over my mouth, and raced to the bathroom. It was just wrong. And it had to change. He shouldn't have died, not yet. It was too soon. He was too young. It was wrong. I could feel it in my gut. I had the urn. The other things weren't difficult to get. Seawater, a snake's skin, a robin's egg, some herbs. The seawater being my special protector was encouraging, although I knew I couldn't rely on that. I didn't know how he would come back to me, if he would still be him. And there were practical things to consider. Taxes, health insurance, the insurance money for his death. Would we have to return the money? Would he still have cancer? Would we be taking him away from a better place? I suppose this is why no one does this sort of spell. But I needed to make things right, and his counsel and his faith, even if he would be angry at me. Hail Hecate, I said, standing in a circle of seawater where 3 roads met. I lit the robin's egg and the snake skin on the makeshift altar. I offer part of my life for more time with my beloved father. Come back to me, Daddy. Lightning flashed, and the wind rose, but there was no rain. The ceramic urn shook, then exploded. I wasn't sure I wanted to look, but I couldn't help myself. Inside the shards was something that looked like a shriveled fetus. It grew, and was then a small, spindly boy with sad eyes. He had cuts on his arms from the shards. Sandy, no, he said. I wanted to speak, but I felt a sudden, unbelievable pain in my legs. I fell to the ground and screamed, and he reached out and touched my arm. His hand was cold. So cold. You don't have enough life left in you to trade for mine. A large clump of my hair fell out, landing on my shoulder, then blowing away in the wind. It's the chemo, isn't it? I said. He nodded. I don't think either of us will last until dawn. Are you mad at me? I asked. No, he said. I should have known. Like father, like daughter. It had never crossed his mind that I couldn't do it. Oh, Daddy, I've missed you. You were only 4 when the car hit you, he said. I couldn't see the license plate. It was moving too fast. I looked down at my baby girl. You weren't moving. Your legs crushed, your neck at an unnatural angle, blood coming out of your mouth. So I gathered you up in my arms and took you to a place where 3 roads meet. Lucky we were vacationing at the beach, I guess. There were robins nesting in front of the cabin, and I remember thinking this must be why I found a snakeskin the other day. It was meant to be. He looked at me, his eyes curious. You don't remember, do you? I shook my head. I remember waking up in a place where 3 roads met. You told me I'd fallen down and hurt myself and asked if I felt better. Was that it? He nodded. I should have told you. I thought you wouldn't want to know something fated you to die young. I'm sorry. And you got cancer, I said. I'm so sorry. What parent wouldn't do the same if he could? I wish I told Mom where I was going, I said. She wouldn't approve. No. I didn't tell her either, he said. I always felt guilty about that. He looked down at the urn. If she comes here, maybe she'll figure it out on her own. Great Aunt Carmela did it too, didn't she? I asked. He smiled at me. Smart girl. That's why she and my cousin Steve both died so young. He made a face. Your mother thought it was dangerous and wrong. I suppose she was right. Poor Mom, I said, and felt tears prickle my eyes. I reached up and rubbed them away. Like father, like daughter, Daddy said, and patted my arm again. How have you been? He asked. I hate having to move in with Mom. I hate the idea she thinks I'm a loser. You could never disappoint us, I snorted. She's not your mother, I said. I think I know her better than you do, he laughed. You're just like her sometimes. I made a face. The sun rose. Daddy was now some kind of shriveling baby-sized thing, dry and dusty, but he could speak. I reached out a hand, wrinkled and gnarled and swollen with arthritis, and brushed back the wispy remains of his hair. I told him about the coworker I'd had a crush on, about the cute guy who came into the occult bookstore I'd frequented back in Atlanta and bought crystals, about anything but regret, because regret didn't matter. It was a fair exchange. We were joined, fated. It was meant to be. As the sun rose, he crumbled into dust, and I cried. My hands looked normal again, but they ached. The arthritis was probably permanent, and I suspected I had cancer in my bone marrow, just like Daddy had. It just made sense. I couldn't gather up the ashes and take them with me, especially not with my hands so stiff. He was already being dispersed by the wind. I could really use medical insurance right about now. I tried to stand and couldn't. My hips and legs didn't seem to work right. So I lay back and watched the sunrise, and then my feet and legs stopped hurting. I looked down, and they had crumbled to dust. My hands were disintegrating. I'd known the price was part of my life. I just thought I had more life to trade. I guess everyone does. But it was a fair trade. It was enough. There wasn't anything to do about it, and I'd gotten what I wanted. So I stopped looking and watched the wind move the leaves overhead instead. And then I was the wind, and the leaves, and the book of shadows lying open on a large stone. And my father.